Hello, I am the Notherian, and this is another SolForge Rise of the Forgeborn draft video. Pack 1, pick 1, and I see that I am offered one of the new Rise of the Forgeborn legendaries, Nauda Face Flourish. This is amazing because the last time that I happened to record a draft video, I was also offered one of the new Rise of the Forgeborn legendaries as a first pick. That was one of the Tempest legendaries, Korok the Khan of Kadras. And this is particularly strange because in all of the Rise of the Forgeborn drafts that I've done, I have only twice been offered a Rise of the Forgeborn legendary as a first pick, and both of them were drafts that I happened to be recording on video for my YouTube channel. That being said, this should be an interesting draft. Looking at the rest of the first pack, Firestorm and Botanimate are both interesting removal cards. Neither of them are cards that I'm unhappy to have in my deck, but I don't like first picking either of them. In particular, I don't think either of them is strong enough for me to want to spend a first pick on them. Sometimes they show up later on and are fine picks. Apocrymancer is an interesting card. Whenever you play an Aloyan spell, Apocrymancer gives you the Technosmith level up effect. So I think Apocrymancer has some interesting potential in Constructed, especially in the future as more and more spells are released. On the other hand, I think that right now for draft, I'm not happy first picking an Apocrymancer because there just aren't enough Aloyan spells at common and rare that are quality spells that I feel good about taking in my deck. And so I haven't been able to get Apocrymancer to work well in this draft format. But I would encourage people to try him out in Constructed. Especially he's a card to revisit once additional spells are added to the format, which is likely to happen at some point in the future. Turnabout is just a strange spell. I imagine that it must have some use in some constructed deck, but I haven't yet figured out what that deck is. So it's interesting. I found it to be fun to play, but certainly not something that I feel good about first picking, not something that's going to win me a lot of games. Firefist Aranti is a solid first pick. Works well with either Uterra or Aloyan that both have nice abilities to pump up the Firefist. Actually, with the new group meal in Nekrium to go along with Hungering Strike, also Nekrium got Spirit Leash. It's possible that he works better in Tempest Nekrium in the new format than he did in the old format. But in any case, I'm going to take Face Flourish, the legendary from this pack, which I think is a potentially powerful card, although not one I've played with in draft. But I think this is particularly worth taking for this video because it is exactly the type of first pick card that often causes me problems in draft. So the cards that I first pick in draft can roughly be sorted into cards that are just all around solid cards. Things like, a Flesh Fiend. Things like, what's another good example? Flesh Fiend is a good example. Battle Tactician is a good example. And cards that are just good in pretty much any deck that you put them in. And then there's other cards like Face Flourish here, which are only good in a particular type of deck. In this case, it's an Uterra Swarm deck that has a lot of plants in it. Particularly the seedlings that get produced by Grove Matriarch and the Sowers. This often causes me problems in draft because it's tempting to warp your draft too much around your first pick. For example, I recently had a very bad draft where I first picked Zerath's Will. Zerath's Will is a great new removal spell, which is free if you also play a zombie that turn. And so in a deck that has a bunch of zombies, Zerath's Will is just incredible. I've seen it used well in draft. When I first pick it, I'm hoping to pick up a bunch of zombie infantry and Darkshaper Savants and make a great Nekrium heavy zombie deck. but if you're not careful, you can find yourself in a situation where the cards that you need to support your first pick just aren't showing up. And so you stretch and grab cards that really aren't very good in your deck just in order to synergize with the first pick. I know I'm guilty of this. I'm sure that some of you have had drafts like that. I pick up Zerath's Will as my first pick. Next thing I know, I've got a deck with 4 or 5 Gravegasts in it, and I don't have any other cards other than the Zerath's Will that make those Gravegasts good. Gravegast at 3/5 and 6/10 is not a card that's good on its own. If you don't have things like Uterra Pump, like a Twin Strength, Enrage, it's really hard to get value out of your Gravegasts. Patriarch obviously also a good way to get value out of those Gravegasts, but if all I've got is a Zerath's Will as the only thing that's giving me value for my 4 Gravegasts, I'm going to find myself in a situation where I don't draw the Zerath's Will, I get a lot of awkward draws with multiple Gravegasts, and end up in a really weak position in my games. So I think there's a chance of that happening here with Face Flourish, and so I need to be really careful when I first pick these situational cards that I continuously evaluate as I go through the draft. Is the strategy that my first pick is pushing me towards, is that strategy available in the packs that I'm getting? If so, that's great. If not, then I really just need to abandon ship and try something else. It's better to have one dead draw in my deck, like to have a Face Flourish which is worthless in my deck, than to take a large number of cards that are going to be bad unless I happen to get Face Flourish. Hopefully that makes sense, but I think it's an easy pitfall in SolForge draft, and one that I will endeavor to avoid for this particular draft. So, when I think about second factions with Faith Flourish is pushing me a little bit towards a swarm deck with Uterra, kind of a fill the lanes deck, and that generally works best with Nekrium, because Nekrium has cards like Fellwalker and Deathseeker and the new Corpse Shambler, I believe, is the new zombie that works along these lines. So I think that the best synergy for Face Flourish is going to be with Nekrium. And so I think taking some Nekrium, taking some sacrifice cards is going to be a good direction to go in. And I see that I have a Spirit Leash here. I think Spirit Leash is a card that I'm happy to take early if I want to go in this sacrifice swarm direction. I think Spirit Leash works well with the same kind of cards like Grove Matriarch and Bright Tusk Sower that I want for my Face Flourish. So I'm going to take this as my first pick. And this is not the second pack that I was hoping to see, or I guess I'm on my third pick now. Not the third pick I was hoping. So Scavenger Scorpion, certainly not a bad card, although one that I probably will have an easy time picking up later on. I mean, it's important to get some high attack creatures, some high attack level 1 creatures into my deck to be able to use as under-leveled blockers later on in the game. But I don't think I need to spend a pick on Scavenger Scorpion quite yet. I think I'm more interested in taking the Deep Moss Raptor. The level 1 Deep Moss Raptor is really bad, 2/2, but the 13/13 can be game-changing. And so, in particular, if I have some sacrifice cards like Spirit Leash, maybe I pick up a Corpse Crawler later on in this draft, gives me some things to do with the level 1 Deep Moss Raptor in his 2/2 body. And then if I can get past the level 1, the level 2 is awesome, and the level 3 is, you know, definitely playable. So I think I'll take one Deep Moss Raptor. I don't want to end up with a lot of Deep Moss Raptors in my deck, because drawing an under-leveled Deep Moss Raptor late in the game is completely worthless. I see. So Stegodon is a solid but unspectacular creature. Feral Instinct is a great card to have one of in a deck. It can can be very useful for getting through the last damage you need to win a game. On the other hand, it's less needed in a swarm deck. And again, not that I have a swarm deck yet, but in the hopes that I might have a swarm deck, Feral Instinct is not all that necessary in a swarm deck because it generally swarm decks can get a little bit of damage through just by having more creatures than your opponent can block. Also, I've not been impressed with the Glow Hive Siren in Draft. I think the level 1 stats on it are just so low, and the level 2, 3 stats are, you know, okay, but not anything noteworthy. The life gain is a decent incidental, but really, if I've got the Rune Bark, if I've got the Rune Bark in my deck, there's great synergy between Glow Hive and Rune Bark, but otherwise it's not one I feel particularly good about taking. Also can work really well with Weirwood Patriarch because of the 3/6 body is great with Weirwood. So I think I'm choosing between Feral Instinct and the Stegodon. Again, Stegodon is occasionally its special ability is relevant, but not very often. Usually it's just a creature with kind of mediocre stats. I will take the Feral Instinct, but I'm not going to feel great about it. See what's in the next pack here. I'll take the Scavenger Scorpion that I missed earlier, just to give myself a high attack creature. So in any case, I'm now 5 picks into my deck, and I don't have anything that supports my Face Flourish, which leads me to think that maybe this Face Flourish might end up being a somewhat dead pick. Might be somewhat of a dead draw for me. In particular, I'm offered the Wirewood Sower here. I really don't want to take the Wirewood Sower if I can avoid it, because although the Wildwood Sower can work great with Face Flourish, I think it's not on its own a strong enough card to justify taking it out of a pack of 6. I think that I'm more likely to get good use out of Charnel Titan than I am to get good use out of Wildwood Sower, given that I don't yet have anything else that's going to power my Face Flourish, so I'm not actually convinced that I'm going to be playing the Face Flourish in the deck, and I guess I have 2 spells so far. Wildwood Sower, has some synergy with the Spirit Leash, although you can't, because of the way the timing works out, you can't use a Spirit Leash to sacrifice the same token creature that is created by playing the Spirit Leash when you have Wildwood Sower in play. So the combo doesn't work out as well as you might hope on the surface. I think I'm taking the Charnel Titan, just because there's enough good low-attack creatures in the current format that I think I'm always happy to have 1 Charnel Titan in my deck. And again, I don't really know what direction my deck's going now. I could very well end up with something like a Group Meal or a Hungering Strike that would help me power that Charnel Titan. So I think I'd rather take that than Sower. Let's see. I don't need a second Spirit Leash, given that I don't really have much sacrifice fodder. Zithian Crusher and Rot Fiend are both very solid Nekrium creatures. Rot Fiend is an incredible blocker. It can block and kill almost anything at level. Also, you can play it as an underleveled blocker, and the 7 attack makes it a great underleveled blocker. Zithian Crusher, 10, 12, and 16, 18 are just great level 2 and level 3 stats. And you don't pay much of a price for it at level 1, especially if you compare it to, like, the Deep Moss Raptor. So, I think I'm going to take the Zithian Crusher. I think the Zithian Crusher is more likely to win me games. It's a great target for Spirit Leash. If you can Spirit Leash 1 onto a Zithian Crusher 2, can create something that's very difficult for your opponent to deal with. And I really don't have much in the way of, like, solid threatening creatures. And Zithian Crusher is just a good all-around creature that I'm missing from my deck. I'm not convinced that the Face Flourish is going to end up being useful, so I want to make sure that I have, like, some other way to put pressure on my opponent. Organ Harvester, I think I'm very happy to take an Organ Harvester here. I found it to be quite good removal in Draft. In particular, at level 2 and level 3, sometimes you can even play it to block a small creature and get a little bit of use out of its body before you activate its ability. Otherwise, just getting a one-for-one trade with an opposing creature of your choice is not something that's bad in draft. I mean, I don't take this over, like, strong, potentially game-winning bombs, but because in general, I think, as most people have figured out at this point, removal tends to be relatively weaker in SolForge than solid threatening creatures in this draft environment, but having a little bit of removal can really go a long way. So I will take the Organ Harvester very happily. Hunting Pack versus Darkheart Wanderer. I think I'm not taking the Ghost Scale Cobra here. Darkheart Wanderer is, again, another great target for Spirit Leash. I think I'll take the Darkheart Wanderer. Again, I'm confused at this point about where my deck is going, which is unfortunate. I'm not getting the supporting cast that I hope for Face Flourish. And I'm getting a number, at least a couple of solid Nekrium creatures. Darkheart Wanderer has good synergy with Uterra, because you can get a high regeneration creature if you stack like an Enrage and a Feral Instinct on a high-level Darkheart Wanderer. Let's see, probably taking the Gloomspire Worm here. Gloomspire Worm is not a card I've been particularly impressed with in draft. The ability just doesn't come up often enough to be relevant. If you are playing a deck with a ton of removal, or you're playing a deck where you are likely to get ahead on the board and your opponent is playing blockers and they're dying quickly, then, I mean, you can get some value out of Gloomspire Worms situationally, but it's not a reliable enough card that I feel good about drafting it. That being said, every so often, your turn 1, player 1, you draw your Gloomspire Worm, and you get out to a big lead because you play an 8/8 creature that your opponent can't deal with. So, here I take the Bright Tusk Sower. We're only 10 picks in. Bright Tusk Sower is a great all-around card in draft, and maybe if I can get a little bit more luck of this sort, I can actually play my Face Flourish. So take the Bright Tusk Sower without hesitation. And here, another great pack. Choice between Bright Tusk Sower and Grove Matriarch. I think this is actually a really hard pick. I quite like Grove Matriarch, but also like Bright Tusk Sower. I'm going to take the Sower. I think in a deck that has Sacrifice, which this deck at least has a little bit. I mean, the Face Flourish kind of counts as Sacrifice, and the Feral Instinct, not the Feral Interest, the Spirit Leash counts as Sacrifice. But yeah, I just don't have a lot of experience with Face Flourish, but I think if I have Face Flourish on the board, being able to get the small creature immediately from my Sower is better than having to wait until the Grove Matriarch dies to get the creature to power my Face Flourish. So I'll take 2 Bright Tusk Sowers, and all of a sudden I'm feeling a lot better about my, much better about my Face Flourish. I think taking a second Spirit Leash here is not unreasonable. I only have 2 spells in my deck so far. I've been very happy with Spirit Leash, particularly because the level 1 version of Spirit Leash remains relevant all game long. That being said, Lurker is also a great card, and I'm really kind of short on high attack creatures. So I'm going to take the Lurker just for the 8 attack as an underleveled blocker, but I think Spirit Leash is at least a close choice here. And here I have a choice between Marrow Fiend and Spirit Leash. This time I'm going to take the Spirit Leash. I think that Swamp Moss Lurker is noticeably better than Marrow Fiend, particularly because the 22-15 is potentially game-winning in a way that the 17-13 isn't. And so Marrow Fiend is pretty much only good under-leveled, whereas Swamp Moss Lurker is also something you at least have the option of leveling aggressively. to get some value out of. So I'm going to take Spirit Leash here, and I guess another Darkheart Wanderer. So at this point, I've got a bit of buff along with the Darkheart Wanderers. Spirit Leashing a Darkheart Wanderer is potentially game-winning, especially if, especially if I can also pick up like a Twin Strength or an Enrage at some point in the second half of this draft. That sub-theme is a possible way for me to win. Otherwise, maybe I'll get lucky and get a little bit more stuff to power my Face Flourish, and have the option of winning that way if I can find a few more plants in my deck. Here I think I'm taking Corpulent Shambler. I've been very pleased with the way this plays in draft. As an under-leveled blocker, it's able to put up 8 attack worth of blocking over the course of a couple of combats. 15/15, if you choose to level it instead, is a very solid creature. Solid but unspectacular, but it leaves behind that 3/3 creature, and given that I have some sacrifice in my deck, having that additional body stick around is quite useful. So I think I don't hesitate to take the Shambler here. Botanimate's an interesting pick, although I already have the Organ Harvester, and I generally like Organ Harvester more than Botanimate. I guess... yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is that you cannot Botanimate your own creatures to power a Face Flourish. Not that that would be a great move, but it's not something that's allowed by the text on Botanimate. So I'm going to play my Shambler. Do not need a third Spirit Leash, so I'll take the Lightbringer Cleric. I think it's just a solid all-around card. Good in the old format, remains good in this format. You're really not paying much for that incidental light gain because 5, 10, 15 is really solid stats. Here I have a choice between a Deep Branch Prowler and the Bramblewood Guardian. I actually consider the Bramblewood Guardian at this point because of the Face Flourish. So this is one of those issues that we discussed at the very beginning of this draft, which is the how much do I warp my drafting strategy towards the first pick card. And really the question I have to ask is, with 13 cards left, am I likely to have enough plants in my deck that I'm playing the Face Flourish when I draw it? Because if I'm playing the Face Flourish when I draw it, Bramblewood Guardian has nice synergy with Face Flourish, and in particular, Bramblewood Guardian can take some hits, and then you end up with like a 2-something creature lying around after 1 or 2 combats, and the Face Flourish can turn that 2-something leftover from Bramblewood Guardian into a real creature. So in that sense, I think Face Flourish has great synergy with the Guardian. Prowler's just a 7/7 underleveled blocker. I've got the Swamp Moss Lurker, I've got the Scorpion, I have the Corpulent Shambler, which also works as a blocker. I think I'm going to take the Guardian, and I might be making a mistake here, but I mean, Prowler isn't wonderful. I don't have anything that's going to make Prowler especially strong. I absolutely love Prowler in Life Shaper decks. I quite like Prowler in decks that have like multiple Twin Strength in them. To be able to actually get good use out of the breakthrough. You play like a Twin Strength 3 on a Prowler 1, and you get really quite the monstrosity. But, I mean, I don't have a ton of buff in this deck. I guess I have Spirit Leash, but I think there's other things that I'd rather be Spirit Leashing. So let's take the Guardian. Again, I wouldn't take the Guardian... The synergy with Face Flourish isn't enough to make me take the Guardian in a situation where it's competing against something that has a lot of value. But, I mean, the Deep Branch Prowler is a very playable but unspectacular card, which is why I'm taking the Guardian over it. Grove Huntress here I think is a pretty easy pick. If I'm able to get some use out of my Darkheart Wanderers, Grove Huntress is great for buffing up a card like that. Also great for buffing up like a Zithian Shambler or a Deep Moss Raptor 2 or 3, so I think I've got good targets for Grove Huntress, and the 4/3 body that Grove Huntress leaves around is something that I could conceivably sacrifice to a Spirit Leash. Here I take the Feral Instinct, but I'm not excited to have multiple Feral Instincts in the deck. Usually one is the right number of Feral Instincts to have in a draft deck. Would love to get another plant or 2 or 3 in this deck, but I don't see them showing up here. So War Tusk is one of the new Allied cards. I think it's an excellent pick in a deck that's playing Aloyan. Gives you a 16-15 Armor 4 breakthrough card, which is just very difficult to deal with. If I'm not playing Aloyan, I think that the War Tusk is playable if I have a fair number of buffs, like Enrage and Twin Strength. It can be playable, actually works quite nicely with Life Shaper Savant, but it's not something I want to take out of a pack of 6. It's something that I might take late in a pack if it was sticking around. But because I'm not in these colors, I don't really want to first pick it. Glutton is a good underleveled blocker. Again, I don't have a ton of... We're getting only 10 cards left in the draft, and I don't have a lot of high attack creatures at level 1. So I think I probably take the Glutton here. Delver is also a potential choice, because Delver 2 and 3 have the potential to win games if your opponent can't draw the appropriate answers to them. So Delver is tempting, but I think I'm going to take the Graveborn Glutton. Not what I want to see. Grab a Zombie Infantry, get up my count of high attack creatures at level 1. Here I think I'm taking the Branch Weaver Druid. Again, I'm really skirting the line. Yeah, this is why first picking a Faith's Flourish leads to such a difficult draft. I'm really walking the line between having a deck that makes my Faith's Flourish useful versus having a deck where I just ignore the Faith's Flourish when I draw it. Here I think Zithian Crusher is the all-around better card as compared to the Druid. But I do have the Sacrifice, the 2 Spirit Leashes, which go well with the Druid, and I think I might have enough plants to play my Faith's Flourish. So I'm going to try the Druid and see if it works. Druid is not as good as Sower because the plant that the Druid produces is actually a decent-sized plant, and so I'm therefore less excited about using the Faith's Flourish on the Druid's spawn. That being said, you can get like a level 1 Branch Weaver Druid, puts out a 5/5 creature, and then I hit that with a higher level Faith's Flourish, and I can really get some powerful board presence. So let's take this Dryad. Good. And I will take the second Crusher. And I guess I do strengthen numbers here over the Noxious Cloud. I've just not been impressed with Noxious Cloud in draft. It's possible that with the new poison enablers, that like Dissolve and the Venom Fang, I think. Or, no, I can't. Nether Scale. I think the Nether Scale is the new heroic card. There's some poison enablers that make poison better in this environment than it was in the previous environment, but Noxious Cloud just has not performed well for me. I think I like the new Spore Torrent. I like the new Poison Coil, the Defender that gives poison, but I'm still not impressed with Noxious Cloud, so I'll take the strength in numbers. Let's see. So, another one of the new Allied cards. Again, I'm not in the right color. I'm not in the right faction combination for Phantasm, so I don't give it a lot of thought as a first pick. So Phytobomb and Bramblewood Guardian obviously both work well with my Faith's Flourish. And it is perhaps tempting to take one of these cards to, again, power my Nuada, I guess Nuada is how you pronounce it. That being said, I just don't think I can pass up the Night Gaunt here. Night Gaunt 3 can easily win games on its own, and Night Gaunt 1 and 2 are some of the best things to Spirit Leash in the game. I love Spirit Leashing a Night Gaunt. Like Spirit Leash 1 on a Night Gaunt 2, just so difficult to deal with, especially because the Spirit Leash is immediately giving you the Night Gaunt trigger for some starting regeneration. So I take the Night Gaunt here. The synergy with my first pick is not a reason to take an inferior card over Night Gaunt. That being said, would love to pick up 1 or 2 more plants. What am I looking at here? 4/6 regenerating creature. I think that basically all of the allied cards are solid picks if you're in that faction pairing. If you're not in that faction pairing, I really only take them if there's nothing else very playable in the deck. I think here I'm taking the Fellwalker. Fellwalker has 6 attack worth of blocker at level 1, 10 attack at level 2. So it's a good underleveled card. Plus the sacrifice can power my Spirit Leash. So all Spirit Leashes. So I'll take the Fellwalkers. I think I already have enough other things to buff with my Spirit Leashes. I don't need the regenerating Hydra. I've already got the Darkheart Wanderers and the Night Gaunt as far as regenerating creatures that I might want to buff. Also, I think Uterra Mauler is just an excellent Uterra common in draft. If I didn't have the Spirit Leashes, I would probably take the Mauler over the Fellwalker. And I'm just not getting the plants I need. Yeah. Here I take Gloomfiend pretty much without hesitation. I've been very happy with the way Gloomfiend plays. The special ability on Gloomfiend can sometimes kill off a low health creature that is left surviving in a different lane, which is incredible. Otherwise, sometimes like the -2/-2 or -1/-1 is enough to swing a trade from being like an even trade to a favorable trade in another lane. Also, the 5/5 at level 3 is just massive. So anyway, I will happily take the Gloomfiend. This is a card I wasn't sure about when I first started drafting Rise of the Forgeborn, but it has come through for me a lot, and so I'm very happy to take it here. I'm going to take a second Bramblewood Guardian. Let's see, because I only have 5 spells in this deck. With only 5 spells, I think that I'm going to get more use out of the Guardian than the Sower. I have, I think, a fair number now of, especially since I count the Fellwalker and the Corpulent Shambler as good underleveled blockers. People with 6 and more attack at level 1. So I'm going to take the Bramblewood Guardian here. And then, how many abominations do I have? Graveborn Glutton, 2 Zithian Crushers, and I think that's all. I really don't want a second Gloomspire Worm, but I just don't see a good choice here. Oh, Scavenger Scorpion, I guess, is a 4th abomination. What about Organ Harvester? Oh, Titan. Maybe. Okay. I'm not going to get good use out of Frankenbomb. I'm really not going to get you good use out of Frankenbomb, but it's, I think the second Gloomspire Worm is just a bad pick, so I'll try the Frankenbomb. Yeah, I'll try the Frankenbomb, but I guess this is my deck. So on the whole, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 5, is that right? Only 5 plants to go with my Nuada Face Flourish. So really, the Face Flourish did not come through for me. After I got the 2 Bright Tusk Sowers, it looked like maybe Nuada would come through for me, but in the end she didn't. Really, the most questionable pick that I made in order to power my Face Flourish was when I took the Branch Weaver Druid over a third Zithian Crusher. I think I'd probably, given the way the deck worked out, rather have the third Zithian Crusher over the Branchweaver Druid. This kind of deck is going to be really hard to play because it's going to be very difficult to know whether or not I have enough plants to be worth leveling up my Nuada. Or whether I should just pretty much ignore her. I'm not sure. It might depend on when during a player rank I draw her. I'll try to keep track of when I've seen my Bright Tusk Sowers or my other plants, and see whether, if I draw her late in player rank 1, probably isn't worth playing. If I draw her early in player rank 1, then maybe it's worth a try. We'll see. I think this should be interesting. Overall, I think my best path to victory is going to be like Spirit Leashing either the Darkheart Wanderer or the Zithian Crusher or the definitely the Grimgaunt. Where is I guess the Night Gaunt it's called in this set. So I think that's probably my best path to victory with this deck. And I will see you back here shortly for the games.